Okay, my darling Capricorn, welcome to your May reading. April was quite the month, so let's see what is creating some alignment in your month ahead. And I hope this reading can be almost like the attraction point to some of the themes that might show up so that you can remind yourself and understand that when they do show up, you think, oh, that's right. I can accept the invitation or reject the lessons, right? And no judgment either way. Spirit actually loves you unconditionally either way. We just find, particularly at the Ankara Academy, that for a lot of us that are sensitive, intuitive, empathetic, psychic, whatever, all of the beautiful things, it can be a little bit more difficult to embrace a meaningful life when we're ignoring those sensory systems that are saying, hey, there's healing here. Hey, there's depth here. Hey, there's meaning here. And isn't it a paradox that we ask the universe for a more meaningful life, but when meaning shows up, we think, oh no, that's a bit too hard for me. I don't want to open all of that. I don't want to go into all of that. So it seems to be a common theme through May that there will be something handed, a box of secrets, an iceberg of healing, something that is really handed to you. And we can either dig through it to get the epiphanies, the aha moments, the evolution, the healing, the moving forward, or we can reject the box. But please know that when we reject the box, we reject the healing or the iceberg, that it is likely to come back next month, next year, bigger, right? Here's the box of lessons. You can open it up and have a little look. Oh, you don't want it this month? That's fine. Next month, the box might be this big, this big, this big, this big, this big. And you'll see this play out in people. And I've gone through it many times myself. You ignore it and avoid it. Your guides in the universe really have a really tough choice to make, but it's usually then we are really thrown under the bus. Then we're immobilized with sickness. Then someone, or there's a deep loss. And I'm not saying that you can prevent deep loss if you accept healing or if you go on the journey, but there's always an invitation. So we have to be mindful not to accept the box too often because it can unravel us, but also not to avoid it. So for me, when I started going through my deep healing, I had to move through all the years that I spent in my life avoiding because it all compounded. And then it wasn't until I was bedridden that I said, all right, we better open this box. Now's the perfect time, Spirit. I literally can't do anything else. So, and I know some people that are bedridden that still won't look at their own lives with a deep perspective, or they still won't admit that they're wrong or that they need to change or that something is out of alignment. So we hope to, if you come and go through your training with Ankara, we give you structures, protocols, ways in which to trust the timing of your guides. Because often our students will say, well, I tried to do the healing, but they said, no, don't worry about it. And I said, great. It's good that you're receptive. It's good that you're going in saying, I'm ready. If there's pain, I'm okay with that. If I have to experience something, I'm okay with that. And they say, actually, no, you're good. Happens all the time. And then we also know when we're avoiding the work because we don't sit with them, we don't do the rituals, we don't meditate, we don't do all those things. And that's generally something going on in the background. Like we know what they're going to hand, then we know they're going to hand something to us that we're not going to like. So surrender is something that we hack into a lot. The overall theme for you guys, Capricorn, is Queen of Pentacles. This should be a fairly comfortable place with Capricorn in your chart. She's a very earthly queen. She's a very grounded, practical, no-nonsense queen. She's not interested in fleeting ideas or impulsive decisions or things that just suit the ego. She's actually looking towards a master plan of which there's one step at a time. And she goes through that thoroughly, maturely, and always counting each penny, so to speak. So dotting the I's and crossing the T's. And at times that must feel difficult, boring, not as exciting as we want. But that Queen of Pentacles energy, we're asked to bring that in for May. So particularly for you, Capricorn, let's bring in the Queen of Pentacles energy and let's experience what it's like to be in her shoes and make those decisions that way. So maybe this month is not about new radical ideas that don't have any foundation. It's not about sailing off into the sunset. It's actually like, well, let's build the foundation for sustainable progress. And it's a Pentacles card. So this is about material wealth. This is about possessions. It's about assets. This is about time and energy, scheduling. It's that day-to-day practicality that she really speaks of. And it's really about the routines that are set in motion to develop that practicality. Because reverse Six of Swords tells me that we actually might be going into a little bit more chaos. I know April's being big, but we're going into a storm of some kind. Now, there's nothing to fear here. It just means that we're not out of it yet. There's still a few more layers. So the layers are admit that we're not in calm waters just yet. We're not in hindsight of the craziness. We're actually still in a bit of it. So we may have passed the eye of the storm. We may have passed the huge, big, chaotic part, but there's still debris and collateral damage on the periphery that we still have to pass through. So once we pass through it, that card will become upright and we'll know that we're out of it, into safety, calm seas, sun's out, we're all good. There's just a little bit more to go, Capricorn. So we do have some strong themes around the pillars of spirituality that may have held you in the past, the ways that you have taught or learnt from teachers, mentors, guardians in the past. We're asked to reassess those belief systems. They might be an old belief system rooted in hierarchy, rooted in power, rooted in rules and regulations. There might be some of that conditioning and programming that is still trying to break away. So the Hierophant speaks of the spiritual journey, but mainly from a construct of where we've been. It means that we're in a construct of spirituality that is asking for either dedication to the past or a reevaluation of the belief systems. And we're going to reevaluate from her perspective, not from the perspective of your childlike self, not from the perspective of mainstream society. It's the perspective of, if I was completely in charge of my resources and I felt grounded in self-sustainability, knowing that I could provide the future that I needed to provide, no matter what the sacrifice and cost. And sure, I'd love to do all these wonderful, crazy, adventurous things, but she is asking you to reassess your belief system from that very grounded place, that earthly place. Pentacles is like deep earth nourishment. She is the nourishing queen. If you want to think of it in another perspective, it's really like if you could think of the most grounded, earthly, mother-like figure in your life or in yourself. When she's close to you, you know you just have to make a practical decision, and that's what needs to be made. Queen of Pentacles is, well, let's chip away. Let's make sure we eat properly, sleep properly, put money in the savings account, pay all the bills, make sure that everyone is provided for, and let's worry about the crazy adventures later. That belief system is going to shift, which is really important. And it might not shift as far away from what you used to have than you think. It might just be, with Queen of Pentacles there, a shift towards, well, how can I align my resources and my spirituality? One might be super exciting and hard to grasp and super uncertain with no structure, and the other one can be like boring and weighted and high responsibility. What if we bring them together and say, well, my time, energy, and money can be guided by my spirituality if I bring them into alignment, and only you know that alignment. That alignment is so unique to you. It's not how anyone else is going to be doing it. Don't know if many people are having that conversation. How can I marry my material needs and my wealth sector with my spirituality sector? Most people feel that those two sectors clash, when in fact they don't. So whatever it is for you, what if there were no rules and regulations around your spirituality? And what if that tied into the way that you save your money and organize your nutrition and look after other people? How do they align? And get those two cards to speak to each other. Because from that depth of reassessment, reevaluation, restructuring, we can come to a really nice conscious choice and intentional decision around what actually will fill your emotional and spiritual needs. What's going to fill your cup emotionally and spiritually. Now, many cups there with many different parameters of what might be good for you or possible, but what is actually going to fill you up to fulfillment based on these themes. So there's a part of you that needs to be acknowledged. It's the Queen of Pentacles part. It's that very serious part, the divine feminine you that needs to have a plan, but knows that that plan needs to feel nourished, and everyone needs to be nourished around you by that plan. Very different than if it was a Queen of Wands plan or a Queen of Swords plan. I mean, Queen of Wands would probably say, fuck everyone, I'm off doing it anyway. Queen of Pentacles really says, what is the most measured, practical outcome for everyone involved, and how do I align my spiritual beliefs with it? This can be anything from my timelines to my soul contracts to my guiding powers. This would say that you got to do everything that God thinks is right and wrong, because that's the way you're going to get into heaven. Old belief system, something like that. But what if your belief system was, I can choose whatever I want, and it's time that my guides back me up, but it has to be from the lens of emotional and spiritual fulfillment. And Queen of Pentacles really gives us that energy around, and how sustainable is it? So when we look at it from that parameter, we can make that grounded decision, and it might feel tense, or it's probably going to be a month of extreme adulting for some of you. And the seas aren't calm yet. So it's not like, once you make the Seven of Cups decision, and only make it when you've gone through this process of like, oh, okay, I get it now. When everything lines up, there is one timeline that I know is not too much of a drain on my resources, is not going to extend too far. It's not going to be damaging for anybody else. It is going to change my belief systems about myself, but that feels sustainable, safe, grounded, practical. And that's what I need right now to switch this card around. Because maybe you're tired of going into the storm, and maybe you're tired of turbulent seas, and maybe you're tired of holding on for dear life. And maybe that comes down to those rigid belief systems that are still there. The shadow card number 10 is the elk. So when we pull out the shadow, we're really asking from spirit, you know, what's in this that I might reject? What's in this that I might feel is difficult to look at? And the elk comes through saying, your security is yours, your safety is yours, your sustainability is yours. If you're literally not doing the work, then you can't expect it to be there. So in that way, we've got to be mindful that we're not always tending to other people's security, making everybody else feel good, giving all the advice, making sure they're doing all the things. It's not your responsibility. It's your responsibility to look after your own timeline, your own shifts, and your own belief systems. So it really pulls the focus into provide it for yourself, walk that path, make the conscious choice, and know that everybody else can do the same. And maybe you will inspire a few. But if you're too concentrated on how everybody else is doing it or what their needs are, you're going to sabotage yourself. So elk comes in usually to say, get your head out of everybody else's business and build what you need. Day by day, year by year, season by season, that elk gets stronger, right? And there's risks to being stronger with bigger antlers. It means you stand out a little bit more, and maybe people want to get what you have, but stronger we will need to be either way. And May will be the month to cultivate that. So I hope that helps, my darlings. I will see you next month. I love you so much. Bye.